thank you for joining me for what's episode 16 on the Endless Fear podcast. Here I have KC, who's a BMW i3 owner. If you don't know what i3 is, it's an electric SUV by BMW. We briefly talk about certain aspects of the car, and again, if you have any suggestions, please leave them down in the comments below. And let's go ahead and get this podcast started. Hello?
Hi, Christopher.
Yes.
Hey, this is KC Boyce.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad. How are you?
Pretty good. It's just I messaged you and I didn't see anything, and I rolled back over, and then I'm like, oh crap, and I woke back up again. Just
No worries.
what time zone are you in right now?
I'm on the West Coast Pacific time.
Ah, ooh, what you doing out there?
I got a conference out here.
What is it about?
So I work in the utility industry, and we've got our largest conference of the year out here on all customer experience related things.
Just telecom, or just everything mixed in, or
No electric, gas, and water utilities.
ah. So are you work for a specific utility, or?
No, I work for a company that provides market research and insights to those utilities.
It's like a web of mysteriousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't know what it is quite exactly, but it's something.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we
Um,
provide them insights in what consumers are looking for and what the industry is doing, things like that.
um, yeah, I mean, like I said, this is just going to be like a relaxed conversation or call.
Sure.
I'm trying to figure out, were you the one that had the three EVs?
No, I just have one. I've got BMW i3.
Oh, okay. Oh, that works out. It works out very good. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
and just so I've got some context, who's the audience for your podcast?
Actually, I'm on a forum called Endless Fear Forum,
Okay,
and so we're just a whole bunch of guys. The forum is very, very deep. It's like 10, 12,000 members, but
okay,
mostly the people that listen to my podcast are on Endless Fear Facebook. And it's like right now it's really, really small, but it's going to be one of those snowball effect things. Right
sure,
now like I probably have maybe 200 to 300 listeners, but um, that's definitely a lot compared to what it was like a few weeks ago. And it really depends on who's the guest and what the topic is and everything. So
sure. And so is it Endless Trip? Is that car people then, or is it?
Endless Fear is like uh, a group of people, that just have like common interests in EV related things. So, it
Okay,
could be everything from cars, bikes, ATVs, jet skis. It's mostly bikes right now, and then there's also the renewable, like solar and stuff like that. So people
gotcha.
dabble in a little bit of everything on there. So it's just it's really a unique blend of autistic people.
Hmm.
Because
Gotcha.
we're all a little bit autistic in our own way. So it's just
Hmm.
a nice, healthy group of people there. And I've been on there since '08, I believe.
Okay.
And it's weird seeing how everything has grown over the past few years.
Hmm.
And like I said, right now I'm kind of a admin over on the Facebook group. My friend started it, and since we're thick
Okay.
as thieves over there, we have like a Facebook group that has like 2,400 members. So these are
Okay.
just
Very cool.
podcasts that people ride on the bus or on their way to work, and
Gotcha.
they'll listen to something like this. So you know,
Gotcha.
so it used to be me talking about bikes and everything, and I figure I need to expand my genre just a little bit. So I did a podcast last week on my Chevy Volt, and I was
Okay.
like, well, let me branch out to different things, and let me see if I can get some other people with other vehicles. So I'm so glad you had the i3. I've seen one in person, but I really didn't get hands on with it because of course, everybody's in a rush somewhere. So,
Yeah.
um, But I mean, we can just go ahead and start. Like, what made you get on the
Perfect.
bandwagon with the i3?
Um, well, so as for i3 for EVs in general, um, my commute's fairly short. It's about 10 miles each way, and do a lot of kind of very local trips. And I had an M3, and it always kind of pained me to fire it up and waste gas and put wear and tear on the engine for a short
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah.
For a long time, I've been thinking about an EV when I was ready to replace my car, and I drove at the time pretty much everything that was on the market, and the Volt was definitely a fun car, but it didn't make a whole lot of sense if I was going to go the EV route. And we've
Hmm.
got a second car for me to carry around an engine that I wouldn't be using most of the time. So I wanted to go pure EV. And then the other EVs, with the exception of the Tesla and the BMW, were just really boring to drive. So coming out of a BMW M3, I wanted something that was a little more engaging. And the Tesla had a couple of strikes against it for me. One, it was really expensive. Two, it's a lot bigger than I like in a car. I like small and nimble cars.
Hmm.
And three, the Teslas that I saw just had some interior quality problems. Trim wasn't quite lining up right, things like that. And I figured, if I was spending, $70,000 to $90,000 on a vehicle, at least should be put together well. So that kind of took me to the i3, and having owned BMWs in the past, it was kind of a comfortable thing for me. So
Yeah. Do you think that like do you think that BMW either hit the nail on the head, or you think they will continue to grow and actually perfect everything with the i3? Because we never seen BMW. BMW has always been about performance and luxury, and just for them to just kind of hop out in the EV game and be like, hey, we're here. Do you think?
yeah,
Well,
well, I think that the drive of the car is definitely BMW like. I mean, it's quick. It actually handles surprisingly well. It's not an M3, but it handles very nicely. Um, and it's a different kind of luxury inside. You mentioned that you saw one for folks in the podcast who haven't seen one. It's a very kind of futuristic and clean and modern look inside. I think it is consistent with their brand, even though it's a little bit different. I'll tell you the couple of things that I've been following that I think BMW's got going really well for them on this. One is that this is actually their third EV. So they ran a trial of electrified minis I think starting in 2008, and then a trial of electric 1 Series. And so they incorporated all the learnings from the drivers of those cars and manufacturing and everything like that into the i3. So they've actually been at this for a while, and certainly I expect them to continue to develop it. The other thing that they've got going for it is, as folks may know, you may know, this is the first affordable carbon fiber vehicle, and the benefit of that is that it's an extremely lightweight car. So the i3 is like 2,700 pounds, which is the same weight as my old 1980s 3 Series that I
and
had once upon a time.
and that is amazing. I mean, like, sorry to interrupt you, but like I said, that is amazing compared to some of the other cars that are on the market. I know the Volt tried to lighten things up by having some of the body panels made out of plastic, but still, all in all, the Chevy Volt is 3,700 pounds.
Right.
So,
Well, and
yeah,
it's even more amazing too when you think about, on the i3 at least, the battery is something like 400 pounds. So if
yeah.
you took the battery out, you're looking at a car that weighs 2,300 pounds. I mean, it's incredibly lightweight, and the benefit of that is not only is it better handling, but you don't need as big a battery to
Hmm.
have the same range. So honestly, the thing that would make it a perfect car for me is if they doubled the range on that thing. Sold, I'll buy it and keep it forever. But we just got to wait for advances in battery technology, I guess.
So what is the range on that? Is somewhere around 75, 80 miles?
Yeah, it depends on
The driver.
weather and how you drive it. As you know from driving the Volt, Volt. But yeah, dead of winter when it's really cold, about 65 miles, and then the best range that I've gotten is probably like low 90s. I typically get in the high 70s, low 80s in range.
You definitely have a leg up on me. I haven't. I mean, I want to say I took delivery of my Volt. I have a used Chevy Volt, and I got mine in March, April, somewhere around that time. So I haven't actually gotten a taste of the winter part of it, but I'm actually finally getting to that point where I'm actually having to run some heat and stuff to kind of knock the chill out of the car. And I'm pretty sure the BMW has like heated seats and stuff standard,
Yeah,
right? So that
it does.
I know that takes. I mean, like from looking at the standpoint of how I've started becoming green in my house, and like we stopped running central heating like maybe 2 years ago, and we started using stuff like electric blankets and mattress warmers, and that works so much better than heating the whole cabin of a car. It feels different. I've actually it wasn't in like a BMW out there. I think I was driving cross country in a van that had heated seats, and everybody else was cold. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I got these heated seats up here, and it's just a different experience. But that's the smart way of cooling off a car, and it doesn't waste a lot of kilowatts, because I've seen my range drop dramatically in my Volt. Like instead of me having around 35, 38, it can take a huge chunk like around to 30, I believe.
For sure. For sure.
So do you like mainly use that, or you still just like the luxury of like, yeah, I can still, do you still cool off the car normally with heat, or you just use the warmers, or?
Yeah, so it really depends. I definitely make use of the seat heaters. Like you said, it's a lot more efficient to do that than run the heat in the car. It depends. If I'm carrying passengers, I'll run the heat normally.
Yeah.
If I'm, I've never run the car in a way that I've just kind of been uncomfortable. Like I know I've talked to EV drivers who, in order to maximize range in the winter, they're not running any heat, and they're all bundled up in a big coat and hat and gloves and things like that. I've not done that, and honestly, that strikes me as a little bit silly, right? Maybe some people will do that, but I don't think if you're looking at mass market adoption of EVs, that's really a standard, expectation that you can have of everyone, that you're going to deprive yourself of just being comfortable just to drive a different car,
Yes, because it's sort of like, that's one of the problems that we have, is that you have the people that are purists, and well, you have the people that are conscientious and purists, and they're just nuts about the car, and they want to squeeze out every ounce of electricity or range out of that vehicle. And then you have American people that don't want to be inconvenienced, or I'm trying to figure out the word I'm looking for.
No, I think that's right. Yeah. I mean, comfort's a big deal to people. And, I think, for people who are EV enthusiasts, it's important to acknowledge that, and know that while you may be okay, putting on a hat and gloves and keeping your heat off to maximize range, most people aren't going to be. And we see that in my work in the utility industry, that one of the things a lot of utilities do is try to get people to be more energy efficient, and you don't do that by saying, hey, you got to deprive yourself of stuff.
The other thing that I wanted to touch on is, did you get the extended range, or you still have the one that's pure EV?
I got the pure EV.
Because I'm like looking at the extended range, and everybody's there's kind of, from what I read, I'm not reading bad press about it, but it seems kind of like an afterthought. It seems. I mean, well, it's an option, but it's an afterthought on that car.
Well, I think it's just a different understanding of what it's for. So if you really want a car that you can hop in and drive from New York to San Francisco without second thought, I think a Volt or a Tesla is the way to go, right? I mean, Tesla's got the charging infrastructure and the range, and the Volt works just the same as on electricity and gas.
Yeah.
For the i3, it really is intended as a range extender and as a backup. So while the i3 can go for extended trips, but you got to stop and fill up its 2-gallon tank, every call it 80 miles or so, and it'll keep going. Go ahead.
I was thinking with the extended range, I think a more rounder number for BMW should have been closer to maybe just when you need to get out the car, stretch your legs and everything.
Right.
I was expecting something around 4 to 5 gallons would have been a more appropriate size for that tank. But here it is. We have a 2-gallon tank, but it also, like I said, it depends on what you buy the car for and what purpose you bought it for. If you're just mainly around town and then you may go see your parents, maybe once a year, you can kind of deal with that hassle. But it's if you definitely have I consider the Volt as one of those cars that if your trips are under 100 miles, it makes sense to buy the Volt. If it's longer, then and you do a lot of traveling, get the Prius. But if it's somewhere in between, the BMW i3 or the Kia Soul is one of those things that can kind of get you up there to that medium range of 100, and even Leafs can't really touch. I mean, there are some people that are pushing their Leafs and hyper miling them up to 80, 90, and 100 miles. And of course, there's the newer one coming out that's supposed to bust 100 wide open. But I guess it just depends on your lifestyle. And I think, have you seen the commercial that Lexus poked fun at the i3?
I think I did. This was about a year or so ago.
Yeah, it was like some guys that were going to Vegas for a bachelor party.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
And and it's like I hate when people take jabs at EVs in that way of, it's a reduced range or whatever. But it's like EVs aren't for everyone. The BMW i3 isn't for everyone. But if you just had that one trip a year, where you could be hassled, yeah, you'll have to stop a little bit more frequently. But still, I think they could have done something. I mean, like I said, they could have put a larger tank or something. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, some aftermarket deal or something to where, they increase the capacity of that tank, because it seems like it's not a waste, but it's I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a couple of things. One, in the U.S., BMW has basically software limited the tank to 1.9 gallons. The tank size is actually about 2.5 gallons, and so there are some folks who have coded their i3s to unlock that additional half a gallon, which makes a difference. And the other thing that you can code, and this is the way the i3 works in Europe, is you can turn on the range extender anytime you want when the charge is under 75%. For the U.S., the way that it comes kind of from the dealer is that the range extender only turns on when the battery hits about 6.5%. And so the issue with that is that, let's say that you're getting ready to climb a big hill, not so much a big deal here on the East Coast, but out west, California and Colorado could certainly cause some issues. You need more than what the range extender can put out to climb the hill, and so you'll eat through that remaining 6.5% of battery pretty quickly. But if you can turn the range extender on below 75% state of charge in the battery, then you've got a buffer, and it becomes a lot more useful. So, BMW did that because of California Air Regulatory Board requirements, and it's really kind of a shame that they crippled it in that way. But to your point, I mean, I think you're absolutely right that you buy the car that fits your needs, right? And so if the i3 doesn't fit your needs, there's other good options out there. I think folks who complain about a vehicle that doesn't meet their needs don't buy it. I'm very happy with the i3. I know there are a lot of folks who are. The other thing that BMW does for long trips that's kind of cool is that they've got a program called a flexible mobility loaner, And so essentially what this does is that, and not every dealer participates, but you can get a loaner car for, I think, up to 2 weeks a year for longer trips. So we took a trip, even though we've got a second car that we could use, we took a trip down to Florida not too long ago, and we got a brand new 3 Series that we were able to take for that trip.
Is that through the life of the car, or just kind of while you're paying the note on it or something, or is it an extra package?
As far as I understand, it's for the life of the car.
That is awesome, because I have seen people look at, like the people that got the Leafs and the other pure EV. They just, we'll just rent a car for those long trips, those long trips. But if BMW has a loaner program, that is actually pretty awesome. That'll take some of that edge off of doing those longer trips, or at least reduce having to buy an extra vehicle. But it's normally, if you're living in a smart household, like when I was considering a used Leaf at the point where I bought my Volt. But I was like, well, if I get this newer car, I can still keep one gas car in the house for those long trips. But
right.
It's just not extra storage, but the way our driveway is set up, it just wouldn't make sense, and extra fees, and for tag and all of that, and you'll have to drive it occasionally if you let it, and all. I didn't want to deal with all of that, So but that's a pretty ingenious option. At least that's a nice incentive, I kind of. Not that I have BMW money, but that's pretty. I can't complain about that. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was gonna get how's the. I think you lightly glanced on the performance, and I'm looking at the Wikipedia page, and it says it has up to 170 horsepower. Does that? Let's see. What am I thinking? Does it feel, since it's a lighter vehicle, it definitely should have help on acceleration and everything, but I know it's not like a number one stunner when it comes to the on-ramp, but are you able to get it to do things that you wouldn't be able to do in a regular car? Or is it, like, I know electric motors have that zero torque at 0 miles an hour, so you can shock some vehicles like, oh, this is an SUV, and you didn't expect it to accelerate that fast. But is it anything lackluster about it, or?
No, not at all. It's pretty quick. I've any issues, and in fact, it's the quickest BMW that it accelerates from 0 to 30. So it's low to mid 6 seconds, 0 to 60, which is still respectable, but not crazy quick. But 0 to 30, it takes off and goes. And so if you're sitting at a stoplight and just mash the accelerator, you can look back and see traffic receding pretty quickly in your rear view.
Yeah, saying that it was expected to do 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, but I'm still trying to figure out what's the updated number. But like you said, the 0 to 30 is probably pretty quick on that. I know it's kind of weird between the electric vehicles. It seems like the Leaf has the best compared to my Volt, the Leaf has better acceleration at the 0 to 30, which is pretty quick, but the 0 to 60 on the Volt is a little bit better. Like I said, I'm just seeing real incomplete information on this Wikipedia page to where I can't really get true numbers on that. How's the fast charge options for it, or how fast can it actually charge? Can it use the DC fast charge, or are you just limited to like maybe, the 6 kilowatt charger, or what?
No,
how does that work out?
It's got the fast charger, and there's a couple of flavors out there. So the DC fast chargers that the Kia dealerships have been putting in, and that Georgia Power is putting in, are 50 kilowatts, and that's pretty quick. That's in theory, I think that's 0% battery to 80% battery in something like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
I've found it to be, I haven't done the 0 to 80 test, but just kind of extrapolating out, it's probably a little bit longer than that.
Yeah,
but
the
it's
0
still
to 80
quick.
is 30, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's also a fast charger that BMW developed with ChargePoint. That's a 24 kilowatt unit. And the advantage is that it's a lot cheaper and easier to install for whoever's installing it, but it's also a slower charge for drivers. There's just one of those in the Atlanta area at the BMW regional headquarters. Still nice to have the option, but it's a little bit slower.
And what is your home option?
I've got a level 2 installed at home.
Is it, I mean, I know that we have circuit restrictions in our house. Is it just, I mean, what's the kilowatt on it? What's the kilowatt rating on it?
Yeah, so it can, I think 7.4 kilowatts is the what the
Nice.
car can take. And I've got a Clipper Creek HCS 40, which is, I think it's like 7.2 or 7.3 kilowatts, so it almost maxes out.
Yeah, because it probably maxes out a circuit, and there's not too many people that's willing to, upgrade their houses that much to charge that quickly. But from what I've learned, even with my level 2 at 3.3 kilowatt hours, it takes me 4 hours for my 40 miles. So you're charging like almost twice. You're charging over twice as fast as me. So you should be able to like get up and going in under like 2 hours. Well, about slightly over 2 hours, I would think.
Yeah, well, so with the level 2, it's usually about 3.5 hours, and that is somewhat temperature dependent. The car heats or cools its battery as necessary to make sure that the temperature stays in the right space. But so sometimes it can go faster, sometimes it can go slower, just kind of depending on what's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Do you which time of use plan are you actually using to charge your vehicle?
I'm actually not using a time of use plan to charge. I'm on the standard rate plan. And as I said earlier, I've got about a 20-mile commute each day, and I haven't really noticed much of a change in our electric bill.
That's
I charge every 2 to 3 days.
Oh, well, so you only charge it when you need it, which is, I mean, which
Right.
is uh pretty decent. And there's a whole lot of people, especially on the EV, what's the name of the group?
The EV
EV
Club of the
Club.
South.
Yeah, yeah. It is
Yeah.
like, everybody has their own little preference on which plan works best for them. And like I said, I'm currently using this weird time of use plan that it it dings you for peak usage,
Okay.
and then it also like peak usage, like if you run the dryer and the dishwasher at the same time, that's a big no-no. Like so,
Okay. So you're on
for
the demand rate.
yeah, the time of use residential on demand, and then it
Hmm.
sort of acts like nights and weekends a little bit. So, but the thing is, at least the nights and like the regular nights and weekends is 20 cents a kilowatt hour during peak, and this one is 10, but they're making that up with that it's like a $6 or $7 on demand peak charge. So
Gotcha.
I think that it will be cheaper overall, but like I've seen some peak usage this year, like compared to last year.
Hmm.
Last year, I mean, I didn't have a car last year, but last year on nights and weekends, we did pretty all right. This year, since we were like, hey, it's only 10 cents a kilowatt hour during peak, we're just going to do whatever the hell we want.
Right.
So we did see um, a surge in our bill a little bit, but like since it's cooling off now, we're not running AC and stuff like that. Like the first month we dropped like 80 something dollars. So,
Wow.
and I'm expecting to drop even further because we're in the winter off months, we're used to seeing bills like around $50 or $60, and I
Uh-huh.
expect it to drop back down to that range because we're talking about I think it's like zero point 0.9 cents a kilowatt hour, so it's a fraction of a cent. It's almost a cent, but um, so theoretically, if you look at the straight rate of what I'm charging, it may be 16 cents to charge my car, but
Hmm.
and of course after regulatory fees and everything is really averaging about, I think it's 10 or 11 really realistically
Okay.
after the on-demand fees and everything. So I haven't, like I said, I'm still new when it comes to this car. And I mean, when it comes to my car and EV charging, so I got 6 months under my belt with my vote. But other than that, I'm still, like I said, I'm still fresh and I'm still learning the ropes. And I think we might end up changing plans. We might go back to the regular rate, because I think we use a lot. I mean, I'm just not seeing the perks of this current plan is compared to the regular rate. But anyway,
Sure.
have you taken yours out into the mountains and flexed it a little bit or anything?
Um, the longest trip that I did, I haven't gotten up to the mountains yet, but did a trip over to Road Atlanta a while back. The BMW Car Club America had a driver's school, and they had like parade laps during lunch where you could take your car out onto the track. So we had something like 6 i3s that showed up for that, and drove around the track for 20, 30 minutes. So that was a lot of fun.
Because I mean, what I was kind of getting around to is like, how it actually performed in hilly terrain or in the mountains or something like that. But
Yeah.
that's one of those things where you really have to, get the app out or the charge point, networks or the fast charge points and really see how you plan your route. And then I mean, I don't see it as an inconvenience, but it's definitely one of those things that you can probably go over into the next state without much hassle, especially
Yeah,
if you
no, I
use
think
the
that's
fast charge.
absolutely right. Yeah, I think it's, as long as you do some planning, then it shouldn't be any problem.
Because like a year or so ago, yeah, that wouldn't have been an option. But it's just so like whenever you plan these trips, I wouldn't say double the time that you think is going to get there, but still stopping at 30 minutes a pop every hour and a half, 2 hours. Um, I mean, I guess I got to look at it as like it's better on your body and everything. Of course, you're not going to develop blood clots and sleeping leg and and all of that. So you get up, walk around while your car's charging. Granted, that is open when you get there, but have I mean, while we're on the charging, have you ever encountered like the people with poor charging etiquette? When it comes to these Georgia
Yeah,
Power chargers and all of that, the quick chargers.
yeah. I mean, on the fast chargers, I've run into a couple of folks that are sitting there and topping off on a fast charger when it'd be just as quick to plug into level two. I've seen some tests that folks have done that basically above, and it depends on the car and the time, the temperature and things like that, but above 80 to 90%, you're just as fast on level two as you are on the quick charger. So I've seen some folks that they're not aware of it, right? So it's not an intentional, hey, I'm going to be a bad citizen or whatever. It's just they don't understand, right? It's called a quick charger, so yeah, obviously it would be quicker, right? So that's kind of been the issue, and typically I've been able to engage folks in conversation and just talk to them about it, and it's no big deal. So.
But it's one of the things that I think they failed to put that in the design um, of the Chargers because I'm like, all right, I think the Georgia Powers have recently turned their charging system on. I'm not the charging system, but the pay per use system on. It used to be free, and
Right.
now it's pay per use. I think it's like $5 for the session for 15 or 20 minutes or something like that, which should allow you to get pretty much 60 to 70%. And though it just like you said, it depends on the car, but I also
Hmm.
think that they should have had like a two-tier system, like you have the main DC charger in the middle and maybe have some level twos on either side if they so choose to want to continue to top off, since like you said, the level two is just as fast as continuing to charge it on the DC. So
Right.
so I think you should have your one session. I think you should have your one free session where you scan in, get your 15, 20 minutes, and then if you still want to continue to charge, put the fast charger back on the hook and grab the level two and top off if you want to continue, but still leave the
Yeah.
DC fast port open. I mean, there's ways that they could have implemented this a little bit better, but
Sure.
I think there was just that abuse that, I guess it's like those hipster people that, like, I'm grazing for free, and since it's free, I get to do whatever I want. But when I wouldn't say there's a line, um, but when there's other people that I wouldn't say need it more than you, you just like I say, you're just taking up space and just being a douche at that point. And
Right.
it's to the point where, since my vote takes 4 hours to charge, even with a level two, it takes 4 hours to charge. There's only rare instances where like I might find a good parking deck or a parking location where I might spend a little extra money, one to get a closer space or something, but to charge, as long as I'm not inconveniencing anybody else. But normally, like if you park in the parking deck, you paying the fee for the deck, and the charger's kind of either thrown in free or since I have the portable onboard charger, they have this a location where you can plug in, and like I said, you're going to a conference when you're going to be somewhere a few hours. Yeah, that's a time where you can charge your vehicle. But like I said, I'm an extended range vehicle. I really shouldn't be that person that's just hogging a charger, all day when I can just use gas and continue about my trip. So it's that's I hear stories about it. I've never experienced it, but me personally, with my car, I will move out the way with these other cars, like the Leaf and the Mitsubishi, the i3 and all of that. I would just get my 15 20 minutes of charge and go on. You're not supposed to really use those fast chargers as a crutch, because I think that didn't the
Yeah.
Tesla issue a statement about the overusage of their fast chargers,
Right.
and that's something that's like really, I wouldn't say really depressing, but it's like the Tesla has such a huge battery pack on it. Um, I can see how people would want to use the fast charger a lot more than trying to charge a Tesla at home. But if you bought the Tesla, then you got money for a decent charge station at home. So it's like, if you're going to embrace EV, you got to embrace all of it and get all the requisites to support charging at home and
Yeah.
not.
Well, and it's just a question of convenience too, right?
Hmm.
So even when the Georgia power stations were free and with Tesla superchargers being free, one of the things that I like about driving an EV, and I know many people do, is that you don't have to stop at a gas station. Well, if you're using those fast chargers as kind of your main way of topping off the battery, you're essentially replacing trips to the gas station with more frequent trips to these fast chargers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would highly recommend. I could probably get away with having a level one at home and just plugging into a standard outlet and charging, just based on my typical mileage. But the level two makes the car much more usable. Can come back from a longer trip, plug in, be ready to go. Add another 10,
Yeah.
15 miles in a little bit. And certainly overnight, we'll charge it up. Level two will even charge a Tesla completely overnight. So, I would definitely recommend for anyone who's looking at an EV
Yeah. That.
to make sure that they've got a level two at home, because then you don't have to worry about stopping somewhere. And that public infrastructure is just for where you've got a longer trip that you need some additional range, and it's there for you there, rather than having to rely on it all the time.
Yeah, and one thing that I liked about level two, like I said, I originally bought my car with a level one, and that was an 8 to 10 hour charge overnight, and that's roughly like maybe 1.5 kilowatt charger on a standard 120. And when like it's like I hate to be so blunt, direct with it, but like once you go out do your errands and blow your wad and come back and trying to get a charge on 120 where you get 4 miles per hour, you can't do
Right.
anything with that. You
Right.
you really can't. So once I ended up getting a converted Leaf charger that was somebody had a 120 Leaf charger that converted it over to 240. So now it's a 3 kilowatt charger. I bought that at a huge discount. I think I paid like maybe 250, $300 for it or something like that. And since my
Hmm.
car maxes out at 3.3, like I said, now I'm charging at the low end of level two. But excuse me. Um, I like if I have to go out and do errands, I can leave the house at 6 o'clock, do my errands, come back at 9, 10, plug in, go back out again because you remember we have the time of use, so I have to charge again before 2 o'clock before the high rate begins for the peak usage rates begin. So that level two allowed me to go out and do multiple errands, and possibly, I can get up to, maybe around 89, 80, 90 miles of EV range by having that level two charger. I couldn't do that on a level one. So I mean,
Right.
and in your case, you have a slightly larger battery pack and a lot more range. So you got to be able to recoup that range in a decent time frame. But so like I said, when people spend money on the EVSC, that's a lot of money, but down the road it'll pay for itself in time and convenience.
Yeah, for
Just by
sure.
I mean, because that was a day and night difference, 8 to 10 hours versus 4 hours. That's a huge difference. How's your reaction with people? Like, do you get stopped a lot? Like, you go into a grocery store and somebody's out, like, looking at your car and taking pictures or anything like that? Do you have anything going on like that where you have to?
Um, it's not as frequent as it was when I first got the car. I was one of the first i3 owners in Atlanta, so it was definitely a unique looking vehicle then, still is.
Yeah.
Um, and had a number of folks stop or ask questions, whatever. It's just an opportunity to talk to people about EVs, right? So it's always fun. I've never had a bad experience with folks. They're very curious and want to know what it's like, and so it's just a good opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're talking about here.
I mean, it's like my car has big bold letters of "vote" on the side, so it's sort of, I get stopped at, I can pull up to a red light and somebody will roll down their window and I give them the quick facts on it,
Hmm.
and everything, or pull up. And it's like we're pulling up to a gas station, they're like tilting their head, like, what the heck is he doing? If that's electric, then,
Yeah.
and, and even it's really, it's like you're getting an EV grid when people are actually truly interested in what you're driving. And, it's one of the things that the only reason why I would be in my vote right now is because I got it off lease, you know.
Hmm.
And, like I said, I'm a small business owner, but, I'm not necessarily reaching those profits to where I could get an i3 or something else, factory new or whatever. But it's like
Hmm.
now we're having, now, what I'm saying doesn't apply to every EV vehicle out there because you got to be careful about some of these used vehicles. Like I said, the Leafs, if you see a Leaf that's 9, 10, 11K, it may be too good to be true. You may have to check that battery pack out. But, I got my
Right.
Volt around 15K, which is, more my budget, and it was a no-brainer. At the higher price tag, I wouldn't. At the new price tag, I probably wouldn't be in the vote. But since I got mine off lease and it's still under warranty and everything, I got the 2012. Which year do you have on the BMW?
So it's a 2014.
So yeah. So I mean, do you see yourself like you're just going to keep this and ride it out till the wheels fall off, or because you probably good to like 20 2024 or something as far at least the battery life. I mean, the warranty on the battery and stuff. So
Yeah, I don't know what the battery life or the battery warranty is. I think it's I want to say it's 100,000 miles, but I don't know that for sure. No, I mean so what I did, BMW's got a program that's kind of a hybrid of a lease and finance. Basically, it's technically a balloon loan, but the car satisfies the balloon at the end of the term. And so, for those familiar with finance, it's like a put option, right? So
hmm
you can sell at a guaranteed price. And so that's what I did because the landscape is changing so quickly. Tesla is promising that it's Model 3. They're going to show it next year, and then who knows, deliveries will start maybe sometime in 2017. BMW is expected to upgrade the i3 probably in the next 2 years. Then who knows what else? There's the Chevy Bolt, not the Volt, but
yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
200-mile EV.
That's
So I just expect there to be a lot of options out there. I like the car a lot, and so at the end of my term, if I like it, I can keep it. But I also like keeping my options open, and because I've got essentially a guaranteed price on it, even if something else does come out that tanks the value of the car, I've kind of got that locked in terms of the financing arrangement.
and that's a very good feature. And like I said, I try to evaluate that option of lease to purchase, or like I said, just like the people that own my car previously, have it for those 3 years, put your 36,000 miles on it, and let it go. Walk away free and clear. My wife is one of those type of people. She likes to always be under a warranty, so leasing a car sometimes, makes sense. And actually, a lease probably would have made better sense for me also, because I work from home and I'm only going errands to the grocery store and everything. But here's the kicker. I thought that this car would be like one of those cars that I may rack up 1,000 or 2 miles on it every year. But it's one
Hmm.
of those cars that compared to my previous car, I drive it all the time, and so,
Yeah. No,
so
I do the same thing with my i3. Yeah.
So it's like I went from, like I said, literally, like I had an older car. It was like a '97 Bonneville. It was like a freaking land boat, and it literally sat in the driveway. Not because it was like expensive to fill up or whatever. I don't know. It just wasn't one of those cars that you go out and showboat or whatever. But it was like I went from doing I mean, I would say 3 to 5 thousand miles a year to, in these 6 months, I put 10,000 miles on my car.
Oh, wow.
So it's one of those things you don't want to keep it at home, and
Sure.
it's like I really do get like a giddy feeling, like pulling up in a parking lot somewhere, and I wouldn't say like sneaking up on people or whatever, but just cruising through the parking lot and slowly parking, and people loading groceries and they didn't realize you pulled up next to them and everything. It's like you want to show off the car, you want to drive it. You feel a lot better about driving and doing those small errands. You don't, you're a little bit carefree.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a feeling that, and again, like I said, at the price that I got my car and what people are paying for just strictly gas only cars that are not even hybrids, I'm like, it's a no brainer what choice you should use now. Um, I want to like go back to your car. How's the room? How's the space in there? I mean, I'm pretty sure whoever's in the front seat feels like they're the king. Is the back seat? Does it? I mean, does it still have the space you know, to have
Yeah,
people
it's
comfortable?
it's a really roomy car, and particularly for its size, I mean, no problem. It is a four-seater, no problem
Ah,
getting four full-size adults in. Um, the kind of funky-looking rear windows where they dip down behind the front actually opens it up a little bit for the people sitting back
really?
there, so they feel they feel like there's a lot more kind of light back there, and not as closed in. But yeah, it's got plenty of room in there. I think the only thing that is that's not terribly roomy in it is the trunk, just because it's rear wheel drive and the motors back
Oh,
there along with some of the power electronics.
I thought it would be
Um,
front. I thought it would be front or all wheel drive. It seemed, but that's something I didn't know, that it was rear wheel drive.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, that's the only. But again, for my use, I haven't run into really any issues with it being, too small or anything like that. Been able to fit everything in. If we need to, if we need to fit more stuff in, we take the other car.
Yeah, like the one thing about the cargo area of my vote is like we recently went on a trip with another couple, and like we normally, me and my wife packs in one of those large, I guess like almost 2 foot long duffel bags, and we thought the other couple were doing the same, but each one of them had full size luggage, and I was able to fit maybe three full limb size, like, think we had a duffel bag, he had a duffel bag, and then his girlfriend had like a suitcase. and it barely fit. I mean, I know I got a hatchback, and it's, the car is a lot lower and it slopes down, but I was barely closing my door. So how is the cargo area set up? I mean, is it just, it's because I'm looking at a picture, and it seems like you should have like maybe 2.5 feet of like cargo space, and then it goes up. I guess the back of the seat, goes up
Yeah,
in a little partition or something.
yeah. So it's a hatchback, and I don't know the exact dimensions of the cargo area, but you can fit, probably three or so airline rollerboards
Yeah.
in the trunk. So I mean, that's kind of the volume that it's got.
So I mean, so where is the battery? Is the battery pack in? Well, where is the battery pack in this car?
So it's actually underneath the passenger cell. So
So is it like
it's
a is it like a surfboard type battery where like the whole floor is the battery, or
basically, yeah,
okay, because yeah, of course, the Volt has the T down the center console.
right.
So I was like, where is the battery in this thing? And I'm trying to figure out if it's rear wheel drive and what's under the. I mean, it seems like there should be like tons of room under the hood or something. I haven't seen under the hood on one of these things, but
Yeah, there's a little kind of storage bucket in the front, if you will, and so like I keep my level one charger in there, and
oh, okay,
some miscellaneous stuff. It's not huge, like you could fit a small duffel in there, like a kid's backpack kind of thing. I know there are folks on the I3 Facebook group that use it as for takeout. So rather than bringing food into the car, they stick it in the front. So just a fun use for that.
yeah. And like I said, I'm looking at the car even more, and I'm like looking at how small that electric motor is in the rear. It's not taking up a lot of space at all. It's really compact. It's like no different than what you would say like a riding tractor motor or whatever. It's not
Yeah,
taking up a lot. I'm looking at the stripped down chassis model of it, and it just really seems like when you look at the basic, how basic, I wouldn't say electric cars are basic, but there really isn't much to it. You have a battery, you have the motor controller, and you have the electric motor, and that's pretty much it. So there
yeah.
isn't tons of moving parts, and I mean, of course, there's bearings and stuff like that, but there isn't a lot of moving parts that can go wrong on this. So, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the nice things from a maintenance standpoint, right? Is that, as you said, they are pretty simple, and so they really don't need any maintenance. I think my first required service is 3 years out, and it's for a brake fluid change. I
yeah.
mean, it's
I mean, it's like, and one thing that I'm noticing about my car is even when I'm running on gas, how most cars have, oil life indicators, and like I said, I've put 10,000 miles on my car, and I'm pretty sure I know I'm bad, but I'm probably at a 60/40 or 70/30 split because I've done a lot of trips this year. I've been to Savannah probably like 4 or 5 times. I've been up to the mountains. I've been up to Ohio. So I've put in a lot of gas miles on it, and for me to be 10,000 miles in and only reduced oil life by 25%, I still got 75% of my oil life left. That's
right.
so it's either these newer motors are running a lot cleaner, or something magical about them to where they're just not burning a lot of oil, or they're not dirtying up the oil a lot. And then also looking at the brakes. How is the braking predictable on this? My Volt isn't really predictable. I mean, I've
Yeah,
gotten a hang of it, sort of like it's like the way that I drive is most of the time if I'm in open country or whatever, I keep it in drive to where it coasts normally. In city driving, I drive it in low to get more of that regenerative braking, but it
yeah.
seems
No,
like
that's
the regenerative braking isn't always predictable, and I think it's either it's speed related and also maybe state of charge related, but I'm not sure. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and try to explain that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and that's one of the things I like about the i3 is that it's got really strong regenerative braking,
Yeah,
and
that's what I
the
hear.
actual friction brakes when you press the brake pedal, you're not turning on regenerative braking. You're actually applying the brake. So
Really?
The actual brake pedal feels like a normal brake pedal. It doesn't have any of that funky regenerative stuff in it. What happens is when you lift off the accelerator, it can actually decelerate itself to a stop. And so a lot of times I'll do my daily commute and never touch the brake pedal at all. And in terms of predictability, they've done a pretty nice job. There are some issues because it's rear-wheel drive, and it doesn't want BMW doesn't want you to spin off into a ditch if you get some bumpy areas or things like that. So like if you hit some bumps while you're decelerating using regenerative braking, it'll temporarily reduce the amount of regenerative braking, and then it'll ramp it back up. So sometimes that can be a little disconcerting for people who aren't expecting it. But I've really gotten used to it very quickly. I like it a lot. The fact that I don't have to touch the brake pedal. They call it, one pedal driving.
Yeah.
And so they've done a nice job. And you can also kind of make it coast like you were talking about with your car just by holding the accelerator down a little bit.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really, there are some folks who have complained that the i3 doesn't have adjustable regenerative braking. And my response to that is, yes, it does. It's infinitely adjustable. Basically, just adjust it with the accelerator pedal. So
yeah,
it's a really cool experience.
like I said, one of the things where I was talking about, like, with predictability is with my vote, it's sort of like, when you look at an item in the distance or a car in the distance, and you want to start braking in so many feet to get to that. It's like for me, like again, like I said, and if I'm using low where the regenerative braking is a lot aggressive, I can't use that same distance. I mean, and of course, it's like it's sort of weird. You got to do all these calculations in your head, like, all right, am I on a downhill? I'm on level ground or whatever. And so it does regenerative braking all the way down to, I would say, about 5 miles an hour, but you still have to put your foot on the brake because it creeps like a regular car.
Right.
On a regular car, you left your foot off the brake and it crawls at like 2 or 3 miles an hour. The car still does that, but when I'm approaching cars or approaching a light, sometimes I can hit it dead on to where I'm slowing all the way up, and pretty much in the last 5 feet I put my foot on the brake and it's a nice graceful stop. And then there's other times where you're expecting the car to slow you down a lot more than it's doing, and then it's like, oh crap, it's not going to slow me in time, and then you kind of, I wouldn't say doing last minute braking. That's when I was saying that it's not the vote is
Gotcha.
not predictable in that manner, because sometimes you can hit it dead on, and other times it's like, oh shit, and
Yeah.
the bad thing about that is, it's like, I'm pretty sure the BMW has an inertia sensor to where it signals the brake lights to come on. But in the vote, like whenever you're doing regenerative braking in the BMW, though, I think the brake lights come on. In the Chevy Volt, it doesn't come on. It just until you actually hit the brake pedal, that's when the brake lights come on. So if you have like a car that's following closely and they're looking at your brake lights instead of looking at the car and what the car is doing, you may have people that come up a little bit too close, especially when you're coming up to red lights and stuff, because there's a lot of people that gauge their stopping distance by when the person in front of them stops. So
no, you're absolutely right that the i3 does, the brake lights do come on when you're decelerating with the accelerator pedal, the regenerative braking. You don't actually have to touch the brakes for the light to come on.
Does your car also have like hill assist?
You mean that it doesn't like roll backwards when you're on a hill?
Yeah, it's like my car, if I'm at a stoplight or something and I apply the brakes, if I remove my foot off the brake pedal, it'll hold it for like maybe a second or two, and then it'll start rolling.
Yeah, I think it does. The i3 is a little different, that it doesn't creep when you take your foot off the brake. So if you're on level ground and your foot's off the brake, you're not going anywhere until you press the accelerator.
That's weird.
It's a little different. Yeah, I like it. I mean, I came from a stick shift, and so it's nice, not having to deal with the creep, because I'm not, used to that. And then it does if you're sitting on a hill and your, foot's off, the brake and accelerator, it'll hold you there so you're not rolling
Yeah,
backwards.
it's sort of like, my car has a little bit of a hybrid of both. Like if you're on the hill, it'll hold it for a second or two, I guess, to allow you to transition to the gas. But if you don't hit the gas, the car will just roll back like like a regular car. But if you're sitting on level ground, it'll creep forward. That's kind of
Gotcha.
one of the things that I kind of do wish I had. The driving sensation. You let your foot off the brake and you're on level ground. The car just sits there. I would love that, but
Yeah.
that kind of trains you to be a lazy driver too, I guess. So
Yeah.
like I said, I know we're creeping up on about an hour. I'll probably like to get like about 10 more minutes of material. So when I edit it down, it'll be a full hour unless you got to go.
Yeah, I do unfortunately have to
All right,
go.
that's fine.
I'm
That's
out of
fine.
this conference today, and I got to get going to the first event of it. So
But I think we
I
got a little.
apologize for that.
Yeah, I think we got a
Good.
lot of stuff here, and I think the people will enjoy it because I think I pretty much was pretty thorough with this. So, but like I said, thank you for your time. Like I said, I'm gonna edit this up. I'll send you a link, and then it'll get posted on my OneDrive and on YouTube, and I hope
Sounds
they
good.
like it.
I look forward to hearing it and enjoyed the conversation. Thanks, Christopher.
All right, thanks, and you have a good day, and you have a hope you have fun at your conference.
All right, thanks. Have a good one.
You too. Take care. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.